Hi everyone, welcome to my green closet. So I hear this all the time that natural clothing is better or more sustainable because it biodegrades. Now, biodegradability is of course a great thing, but this isn't exactly true. This idea is perpetuating a false myth and is a lot more complicated than simply natural equals biodegradable. The vast majority of clothing, including those made from natural fibers, should not be composted and don't properly biodegrade. But before we get into that, we need to understand what biodegrading means, because technically everything breaks down over time, but biodegrading is defined as capable of being broken down into innocuous products by the actions of living things such as microorganisms. Or another definition is to decay naturally and in a way that is not harmful. Innocuous and not harmful are a key part of this. Just because something appears to break down and disappear into the environment doesn't mean that it's not causing harm or biodegrading safely. And with clothing, we have to remember that it's so much more than just the fiber content written on the tag. So while a cotton garment should in theory be biodegradable, it very often isn't. Here's where some of the issues come from. Spandex and elastane. These are synthetic and blended with the fibers, so they can't easily be separated. And like I talked about in my video all about spandex, which I will link, I don't actually think spandex is evil, and it can provide some sustainable benefits, such as improving fit and fabric retention, which in turn increase wearability and longevity. I actually think that the benefits of spandex outweigh the negative of it not being biodegradable. However, we are seeing some new bio-based elastics coming out onto the market, which is very exciting. But anything that has conventional spandex and elastane in it cannot be composted. And this also goes for any type of fabric that's blended with synthetics. They don't properly biodegrade. Then there's the thread. So you would think that if a garment says 100% cotton, it's also sewn with cotton thread. Unfortunately though, the vast majority of clothes are actually sewn with polyester thread. It's a lot more durable and less prone to breaking in sewing machines, so cotton thread is rarely used. Typically, only companies who are making a strong concerted effort to avoid synthetic materials will use cotton thread. And sometimes cotton thread might not even be pure cotton. It can be a blend or sometimes cotton wrapped around a polyester core. So while the fabric might biodegrade, a garment could still be putting a bunch of plastic thread into the environment. Then there's the dyes. This is a big one because almost all clothing is dyed and the majority use synthetic dyes. And dyes have been found to contain things like heavy metals, and we know that azo dyes, for example, bioaccumulate and can be harmful to creatures and the environment. And with some of the other dyes, there unfortunately is very little research on how they actually biodegrade. So we can really only trust dyes that have been tested and certified. But as customers, we get almost no information about what our clothes have been dyed with. So it's not at all safe to assume that the dyes can be composted and safely biodegrade. Something you can do though is look for certifications like Oeko-Tex, or the GOTS certification also has a component on toxicity and biodegradability. The GOTS certification can be tricky though because it can be applied to different stages of the supply chain. So a brand could use GOTS certified cotton, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the dyeing process was GOTS certified or that the final garment is GOTS certified. So ideally you want pieces where the whole brand and process has been GOTS certified. Next is prints and finishes. Many garments have graphics, printed labels, or some type of treatment on the fabric, and these are almost always some type of plastic or synthetic. And some, especially when it comes to fire, stain, and wrinkle treatments, have been found to contain environmentally harmful chemicals. The frustrating thing is that brands don't have to disclose and honestly might not even know themselves what their garments have been printed or treated with. I also want to talk about cellulose synthetics. What about things like viscose, rayon, modal, and tencel? These fibers do biodegrade, as in break down in the soil, but we also run into the issue of what have they been dyed with. And we know, for example, that viscose production uses a lot of toxic chemicals. Now, this seems to only be an issue with the production. However, I haven't been able to find any information about if there is a negative impact to the soil when viscose biodegrades. And that's the big issue. It's not just about the garment disappearing, but making sure that it's not harming the soil and environment. And we can't see things like the microplastics or toxins that might be coming from a biodegrading garment. But of course, I'm not just gonna leave you there, so let's talk about what we can do. Please be very cautious with composting clothing. If you have any doubts, don't put it in the compost. It's almost always better to try to recycle old clothing. And this is going to apply to, unfortunately, like 99% of clothes because we just don't know what's in them. However, there are some brands making fully natural and biodegradable clothing, ensuring things like the elastics, dyes, and thread are safe. I've featured some of them before, like the Very Good bra, whose bras can actually go right in your home compost, and I have a roundup on the blog of some more brands if you're interested in checking them out. So I hope this video was helpful. I really think that we need to change this myth that just because a garment is made from natural fibers means it's automatically compostable and biodegradable. Like with any sustainable fashion issue, it's almost always more complicated than it appears, but I hope that with more information, we can each make better choices and that we can also encourage brands to make more sustainable choices and products. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.